Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Somerville, for Wednesday, November the 1st, 2022. 6:06 p.m. And we have present this evening Ann Brockelman, Cecilia Daglian, Ann Fullerton. In the background, we have some joining us tonight. We have Emily Hutchins and Minsky. Thank you, everybody. Our little notice here for everybody listening who's interested, pursuant to Chapter 2, 2023, this meeting of the Somerville Zoning Board of Appeals will be remote participation. A recording of can be accessed at any time using the registration link at the top of this agenda. Tonight's agenda, under general business, have some minutes to approve. The co-chair is filling in tonight for our clerk. Ann, could you please take care of that?
Yes, Madam Chair, in the matter of the meeting minutes dated 4th October 2023, I seek a motion to approve them as distributed.
Thank you. May I please have a second from the board?
Second.
Ann Fullerton, seconded. All in favor of accepting and approving the motion for the minutes of October 4th, 2023, as presented? Say aye as we go around. So we have Ann Brockelman,
Aye.
Ann Cook,
Aye.
Ann Fullerton,
Aye.
Leanne, and myself. Let the records show that we had 5 people affirmative. Thank you. Other business? No. Under the public hearing, we have 6:20. I'd like the co-chair to please open that for us.
Chair Montano, this is Andrew Graminsky. Can I please butt in for a second?
Yes.
Did you want to move the approval of the 2 sets of minutes to after?
I only have one.
Sorry, the 1 set of minutes. My apologies.
I just did it.
Sorry. I was trying to find some notes and I missed that. Just wanted to confirm. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, we're all set. We did the
Perfect.
minutes for October down after the public
Give me a
hearing.
sec while I find my brain.
Okay. No problem. Okay. So back to Ann Brockelman. Would you please open 620 Broadway?
Yes, one case today, 620 Broadway, case number P&Z 23-055. 620 Broadway LLC seeks an administrative appeal of the building official's determination that the dimensional variance for the subject property P&Z 21-140 has not been exercised, and or a determination that said variance is equitably told and is in full force and effect.
Thank you. And now, do we have the applicants here tonight?
Yes, I'm going to promote a Bill Correa to be able to speak. Bill, I am promoting you right now. All right, Bill, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Very good. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. It's Bill Proya here on behalf of the applicant this evening. And I guess the floor is mine. Should I just begin?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Tell us.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to open with a quick thank you to ISD staff and the planning staff for their work on this. I know that these appeals can come out of sort of left field sometimes, and not in their normal course of work. So I really appreciate everything they did and all the time they spent on this matter. So I just wanted to let everyone know. I see Emily's here, so. And what I would just say quickly, I know there's been a lot of briefing on this, and the board had a lot to read and consider. And I would just sort of make 2 points. First of all, I would say that I think that the argument that ISD and that's sort of reworded or reiterated in the staff memo on the exercise issue is a little narrower than I think applies, meaning I don't, and again, we briefed this, so I'm not going to go into a lot of legal argument here before the board unless there's questions about it, but I think the idea of an exercise is broader than either just having a building permit in hand or selling the land, for example, which doesn't really make sense in this case in any sort of manner of thinking about it, because the purpose of the variance is actually to go forward with the project, not to divide the land and sell it, as in that case they're relying on the Cornell case. So I would just ask the board to consider that the actions that we have taken and that are very fairly outlined and thoroughly outlined in the staff memo do amount to an exercise of the variance in this case. And then secondly, again, the description and the thoroughness of the planning staff's discussion of the tolling issue, I also think is consistent with the law, makes sense, and I think it's consistent with our argument that if the board does not find an exercise here, that it should find that we have equitably tolled the variance by seeking the other permits in front of the planning board that are necessary for the project to move forward. So just those 2 quick points, and if there are questions, I will be happy to answer them, of course. Thank you.
Okay. I understood, I turn, but I want to make sure I get this from the beginning. I understand your second point, would you reiterate what you said about the first point you wanted to present? I don't know whether I can't hear muffled or what. Would you
Yeah.
please reiterate what you asked the
Yeah.
board to forgive me for make you repeat this?
No. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I think the first point that was made by the ISD papers here was that you would have to, under the case law here, that Cornell case is the one they use. It seems like what they're arguing is that in almost every case of a variance, that the only way to exercise that would be to actually get a building permit, have a building permit in hand. And my only point there was, I think that the case law on this is a little broader than that. I think the courts recognize that you can exercise a variance by taking other actions in reliance on the variance, like seeking the other permits necessary for a project to go forward. In this case, you can't, the zoning ordinance requires that you have variances in hand before you can even apply for example, a special permit or a site plan approval. So, the clock starts ticking pretty quickly, and the city's process, understandably, and it's admirable, is comprehensive. So in order to get through the sort of the vetting process, the neighborhood meetings, and all that's required in order to even file for a special permit or a site plan review, you're necessarily biting into or using up that year you have to exercise the variance under the zoning law. So that was my only
Okay.
point, Madam.
Now I get it. Thank you so much. So, you want to say to us anything else right now? I mean, we paperwork and we have all your, your administ, appeal letter.
Yeah.
Did you have any other points you want? Or is that it?
No, one other point if I can, and then the staff memo in the section where I think it's right after the section where they discuss the equitable tolling option in this case, is that the board would have to determine if the board were to find that the variance was equitably tolled, by the actions we have taken, sort of pending the planning board decision on this, is that the board would have to come up with a term for the toll period. And the memo says, as example, 6 months or a year. And I would just say that if the board goes down that route and thinks that equitable tolling is the proper decision here, I would just ask the board to keep in mind that maybe in order to avoid another one of these, depending on, because I can't predict the planning board process very accurately. And that's not a criticism. It plays out as it plays out. And so I would ask the board to consider maybe including a condition in the decision, if it's equitable tolling, that the planning board decision would be considered an exercise of the variance. So in other words, when the planning board decides on this case, then that would be considered an exercise. Because right now, if the board picked a year and then the planning board took another couple months to render its decision, we'd be losing another 2 months. And then theoretically, we'd have to get a building permit within that 10 months, or would be in the same position of being in danger of the variance lapsing again. So it's more of a logistical and a mechanical question, but I did want to raise it at this point before we got too far down the line. So thank you for offering that.
Okay. I guess the next step is we do have public portion of the meeting, and I'll ask our staff people here tonight in the public that would like to contribute to the
If anyone would like to speak on this case in the public, please use the raise hand feature. Sheriff Fontano, I am not seeing anyone raising their hand to speak.
Okay, well, I'm sure we have some out of a little courtesy to the general public. Open right now, and we'll close it when we're through and getting ready to vote. So for the record, we're leaving the public portion open, and we're going ready to participate. I know we have two alternates on tonight, and I want you guys to weigh in. I always try to include you. And then when we go to vote, I guess, Emily Hutchings, is this something I think we've discussed in the future that you want to designate the alternate that's going to be voting on a particular case?
Madam Chair, through you, Emily Hutchings, I believe because we have two regular members out this evening that both alternates are automatically voting on this
Love
case.
it. That's good. Very good. Okay, so let's open it up to the board. You folks have some questions of the attorney, the agent here? Would like to go first? No one has any questions? You have all the answers? Wow, okay. Are you ready to vote? Can you hear? Yes, Brian Cook, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is a general one to both the applicant and the staff, which is the staff memo outlines two parts that we have to address.
Yep.
The applicant in the memo seems to say that there's three parts. So some clarification on exactly what and in what sequence we are to make determinations would be helpful. Is it exactly what's in the staff memo? Or is there some variation? Can we make up what we want to make decisions about? Some clarification on that would be great.
Madam Chair, this is Emily Hutchings. Through you, I can respond to that.
Yes, please do.
Yes, so there are two votes that need to occur tonight. One is to whether to approve the administrative appeal. And that would mean that the hardship variance has been exercised. That would overturn the building commissioner's determination that it has not been exercised. Following that vote, you will need to vote whether to make the determination that the hardship variance has been equitably tolled. So you could make the determination. The motion could be to determine that the hardship variance has been equitably tolled. I think the board typically makes motions in the affirmative, so that is how that motion would be phrased. And then if you agree that it has been equitably tolled, the vote is aye. If you do not think it has been equitably tolled, the vote is no. What I believe the applicant has asked for is if you vote to determine that the hardship variance has been equitably tolled, that you include some additional conditions of approval. The staff memo outlines, do we outline conditions of approval? No, we're not outlining conditions of approval, but what we have noted is that a timeline does need to be established for the period of time that the hardship variance is equitably tolled, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, whether it's 3 months, something that the zoning board needs to determine. And the applicant has asked, in addition, within that second vote, to attach a condition of approval that states that the hardship variance will be considered exercised once the site plan approval and the special permit have been moved on by the planning board.
Okay. If I may just ask one more question, Brian.
Sure, I do
So-
have a follow-up, but go ahead.
On page 6 of the staff report, on the under consider findings, there's dates there. Was that where I saw it? Wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. Right above that, the paragraph above. If the ZBA determines that the variance is equitably tolled, staff recommends determination of a time limit. In the last, as a tolling period of 12 months would set the variance to expire. It should be 2024, no?
Oh, yes, you are correct. That should be 2024.
Okay, so we'll know to make that note, okay? So if that's to 2024, okay. If we gave the year, 12 months. If not, it's the 6 months. So what the attorney, go ahead, before, I don't want to step on your toes. Go ahead first next. I just wanted to get that correct.
Thank
Brian
you.
Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up through you to Emily, if we determine that the variance has been exercised, the rights of the variance have been exercised, does that make the second determination moot?
That is what I believe. Perhaps Attorney Proya can weigh in on that.
Yes, I agree. I think that's correct. The exercise would make the equitable tolling decision unnecessary.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if we vote in the that approves that for the applicant, right? And then, are we gonna set up a date, a time? Not necessary then?
So, Madam Chair, through you again, Emily Hutchings, if you make an affirmative motion on the administrative appeal that the hardship variance has been exercised, there is no date that needs to be attached to that. That determines that the hardship variance has been exercised, so they have whatever time they need to complete their next steps and follow through to the building permit stage.
Okay, and if it's denied, it's, they have to start all over again?
No, if the administrative appeal is denied, then you need to go forth to the second step and make a determination whether the whether the hardship variance has been equitably told. If it is found that it has been equitably told, if that it is an affirmative vote, then you put the time limit on there, say how long it's told for. And then the applicant has that much time to go get their site plan approval, get their special permit, and then go apply for the building permit. If you vote in the negative that it has not been equitably told, that means that the applicant has to go back and apply for the hardship variance and start the process over again.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, but I thought was saying that they want to, if we approve that it's in the affirmative, any other dates put on them, that they're gonna go through all the process. So it kind of, is that right? Did
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you were breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat that?
I'm not ashamed to say it. If it's affirmative, don't we go back and we either extend it the 6 months of the year for them? Oh, why
No, Madam
not?
Chair, because a hardship variance is only able to get one extension per
One.
state.
Okay,
Correct, and they've already received that extension.
okay. So then what happens? They just go forward and just keep doing what they're doing?
So if it's equitably told, then you set the time frame that it's told for. So they have that number of months. They have however long the
That's what I
time
just
frame. So
asked.
if you told it for that 12 months, they
Yeah,
have effectively until June to get through the site plan approval process, get through the special permit process, and apply for the building permit. What the
all
applicant
that has to be done within those months.
correct.
Right.
And what the applicant has requested is that you also lay a condition on that, mean that once they have completed the site plan approval and special permit process, that means the hardship variance will be found equitably told, or not exercised, I apologize, that it will be exercised. And that means that they don't have to apply for a building permit to exercise the variance. I do not believe that is something that staff would recommend,
Yeah,
simply based on the fact that ISD law department believes that for a hardship variance to be exercised, it requires a building permit or the sale of the land. So that's not a condition of approval that I think staff would be supportive of, but it is up to the board.
okay, all right, thank you. And Brian, do you have something else?
I'll just state my position, at least on the first question, and then I'll yield the floor, as it were, which is that there's insufficient information in the case law and the statute that suggests that having a building permit is a necessary predicate to exercising the rights of a hardship variance. And if there are other things that the applicant has done that are similar to what other cases have indicated that those parties to those cases have done, then I see no reason why we wouldn't support the appeal and And, with all due respect to the building official and the city law department, I think we find the appeal should be approved.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Ian Brockle,
I just have some questions for the applicant. So, where is the project now? It's design, the still feasibility, when you have to take the drawings to the planning board. You have met with them, right? I'm trying to look at the timeline.
Thank you. We are well into the planning board process. We had our first hearing earlier this year in April, I believe it was, and we've had several public hearings after that. Additional information has been requested. We've tried to provide it, and there's still a couple of things outstanding, but we did respond to those in the summer, and I think we're done, but we do have to get before the planning board again. And in their defense, they raised this issue because they feel like, and I think they're correct, that they're not sure they still have jurisdiction over the case, the project, until the variance exercise or tolling issue is determined. Because as I said at the beginning, it's a prerequisite to get variances that you think you need as a project before you even apply to the planning board. But we are well along, and I think we're fairly close to getting a planning board decision. But again, I'm not great at predicting these things, but I hope that answers your question.
So well along in design. So after the planning board decision, would you move into DD or CD design drawings, construction set drawings? I'm just trying to get a sense of how much time after your site plan, for example, because sometimes you can get site plan approval quite early on in the process where there's massing and you haven't designed that much, or you can be much further along. I'm just trying to understand in practical terms, where the design team is at with this project.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have construction drawings in hand yet. And if I had to predict, I mean, I think, they could pull them together fairly quickly, but I can't exactly tell you. But the design's well along, the site plan design is well along. And what the planning board has asked us that we have responded to, but we haven't gotten any feedback yet because of this delay, advances the design even a bit further. So, but what I think if I may just say one more thing about this, because I think it goes to the timing issue about the length of the tolling period, if that's what the board decides is the proper decision here, is that, and Emily can correct me on this, once the special permit is granted, we have a 2-year limit to exercise the special permit as well. So there's a built-in, that's why I was trying to make the suggestion that if it could be tied to the planning board's decision, that would create an automatic term, if you would, because that permit also has an exercise date. And it's 2 years from the day that it's decided, I believe. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well to give you some perspective on the time. Although I do like Mr. Cook's point of view, and I think it's the correct one, but I'm happy to answer other questions if they come up.
thank you. Ann
Okay.
Fullerton, oh, I'm sorry, Ian Brockman.
Just one
Ian
more
Brockelman.
separate point for staff. So at end of August, the applicant filed for this administrative appeal. We're now 1st November. So, it's clear that things can move slowly, and especially when you get things right. But is that a typical time from filing application to appearance to the ZBA? That's 2 full months. you have to advertise for a week. So that's yet another delay. 2 months have been eaten up. I'm just trying to understand what the process is.
So there have been some extensions after following the legal requirement for advertising, and that has been done either because of scheduling issues I believe the applicant team had a time where we were not that they were not able to attend. I think we had initially planned on this being advertised for the first hearing in October, which is more along the time frame that we typically see things. We typically, for hardship variances, administrative appeals, take a month or so. But there are there's a 65-day window to advertise a public hearing. So actually, I'm misremembering it. I don't believe any continuances were necessary because this still wasn't within the 65-day limit. That's more typical with a planning board project where a great deal more staff time is needed for review. For zoning board projects, it is more typical that you see things probably a month or so, or at most probably 6 weeks after the full application is submitted, and that's simply because of the staff time necessary for review, the time needed for advertisement following that staff review. So I'd say we're still within the legal requirements for hearings, for advertising. It's just a bit longer than what we see typically.
Ian Brockelman, you done? Much. Ann Fullerton, you had your hand up, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Emily, is this project subject to UDC review as well?
Madam Chair, through you, the site plan approval was subject to UDC review, and it did go through the design review process. That's part of the pre-application stages. So prior to submitting a full site plan approval application, applicants must go through the pre-application stages, including pre-submittal meeting, 2 neighborhood meetings, and design review between those 2 neighborhood meetings. And then they're able to, following that second neighborhood meeting, submit a complete application for site plan approval.
Okay, so again, trying to follow up with Ann Brockelman's questions. I'm trying to figure out if there are any other city hurdles beyond ISD review for this project outside of site plan review. And sounds like you're saying no.
So, Madam Chair, through you, the applicant has gone through, I think, all of the required pre-application stages, pre-application steps. They're before the planning board right now. They are within a public hearing that has been continued pending a result of this for this application.
Thank you.
Great. Cecia, did you have any comments or did it get answered for you?
They got answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, what's the pleasure of the board? I know Brian feels he'd vote in the affirmative. The rest of you feel that if we go forward with this tonight, this project's gonna be done soon? Nah. It's worth going forward now at the stage of the game with a site plan review, and you know, we're talking about all these other committees that have been involved. If you want to take a vote tonight and go forward? Ann Fullerton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to put my cards on the table as well. I feel less comfortable evaluating case law the way Mr. Cook does. I would be more likely to decline the administrative appeal, but consider the tolling period. And I do think that from my perspective, expecting the team to finish the project within 2 more months for a 6-month extension is unreasonable, so I think the minimum we'd be considering is a year, extending it to June of 2024.
Mm-hmm. So you'd say no,
I would say no to the administrative appeal.
right? All right. I know things are moving slower but and I know that we can only give the one extension. That's why it had to fall on an administrative appeal. Yes, Susia.
Oh, I was just gonna say in those terms, I mean, I agree. I feel similar to Anne, and I was wondering if we should extend the time period even farther out. If we approve the tolling, we should give them even more time to make sure that we're not putting the project in jeopardy.
And if we approve it, you'd want to go longer than the year. Well, it's less than a year. It's the June of 2024.
Yeah, maybe
You want
the
to
end,
go through.
maybe by the end of
December?
next year. Yes, that's what I was thinking. Since their special permit, as the attorney was saying, has a 2-year period, it might be helpful to be closer to that.
And if we deny this tonight, let me just right here. If we deny this tonight, what does the applicant do? Start all over? Emily?
Madam Chair, through you, if both decisions are a denial in the negative, then the applicant could continue with the site plan approval and special permit process. They would likely just request a continuance while they apply for a new hardship variance that would be the same as before, but they would just need to go through that entire process again with the zoning board. So that would return to you. You'd be faced with the same facts as the previous time and a decision based on those facts. And then if the zoning board were to approve that hypothetical new variance, then they could go forward with the planning board.
Okay.
Chair?
Yes, Mr. Proya?
May I say something? The planning board would not have to grant an extension to us. I think they would be within their rights to say, you don't have the variances you need that are the predicate for the site plan and special permit applications. And we really don't want to clog up our agenda and grant extensions. So that is a possibility, which means if the board doesn't find in favor of one of these requests tonight, then we could be back at the very beginning, meaning apply for the variance and then have to start all over with the special permit and site plan approval applications. So that is a possibility. Thank you.
So tell me, taken so long? Your contractor, who can we point fingers at?
I don't know if there's any fingers to point. I can say one thing that I think slowed us down, and maybe Emily can talk about it more knowing the city process. The location of the site is in a spot where the city was reconsidering its pavement markings and lanes. And so we did not have a definitive place to put our loading zone. And we've been trying to work that out in the context of our project in the city's planning for the neighborhood, for new bike lanes and things like that on both sides of the street. And that has taken up more time than we expected, and we weren't anticipating that. And so I think in my opinion, that was the biggest loss of time that we had. And again, I don't think it was, I'm pointing fingers at anyone. We just thought that we would be able to get through the planning board process and then work out the loading area once the city's striping and traffic plan was determined. But the planning board did not feel comfortable with that. They wanted to have the mobility department and the applicant, us, work that through so they could see exactly where the loading zone was going to be before they made a final decision. And again, I
I
don't
know,
think,
that's what I'm saying. Stuff happens, you know, if it was during the blizzards or whatever, or like you're saying, the city was working on that and I was there and all that stuff. So, you know, they did a lot of work there. They're still doing work in the square.
but
Just,
we have we have engaged with mobility and we have a plan done. And I think, you know, the planning board will have to see if it works out for them, but it looks to me like a compliant plan and where the loading zone should be, all things considered. So, I mean, again, I think we're pretty close to the end, but I think, you know, in answering your question, Madam Chair, that to me took up a lot of time that we didn't anticipate.
Ann Brockelman and then Brian Cook.
I'm in support of helping the project move forward in as an efficient way as possible, because I do believe the applicants have demonstrated they've tried their best. You know, we do get cases where variances are granted and nothing happens for 6 months. So it seems like, you know, they've done a lot and it's just time has not been on their side. What has confused me with the discussion is I didn't think we could I mean, with 2 separate votes, but I didn't think we could deny one. Deny the first one and then still give them extra time. Which is how
I-
I've had the discussion to be.
I didn't either.
Had to overturn ISD, which is to approve the appeal and then give them the extra time. But it's the discussion with Anne and Cecia went that we were splitting it. So I think if someone could explain the legalese to me again. But I would like to support the project. That's how I would vote.
Brian speaks. Can we let Emily explain to that, Brian? Is that
Sure,
okay with
absolutely.
you? Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you, so the difference between exercising a variance and having it be equitably told. So if you've already exercised a variance, you have taken the steps to make sure that you have, again, exercised the variance, and that variance cannot be taken away now. It is in effect, it remains in effect. Equitable tolling happens when there are circumstances typically beyond the applicant's control that occur that mean that there needs to be additional time. The permit needs to be tolled, as it were, for it to be fairly executed. So again, the term equitable, fair, tolling, however long it takes. So an example of that would be the permits that were tolled through the COVID time period. So if you applied for a building permit, let's say right before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, there was a time period of almost a year. Actually, no, I think it was over a year, where those permits were considered tolled. So they were still in effect, you didn't have to act on them for that period of time. It means that while the permit has not been exercised, so you still need to take steps to exercise the variance, you have that additional time to exercise the variance. Is that clear as mud?
Ann Brockelman. And you're all set? Okay, Brian Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate what Ann Fullerton and Cynthia Baglian are expressing in terms of hesitation to not take the advice of the expertise in the law department and the building official. It's my personal reading of the case law, and I'm not a lawyer, but it's in pretty plain language, and the cases aren't very long. That it would be very strange if you always required a building permit to exercise the rights of a hardship variance when there are so many other obstacles that might be necessary before you can get to a building permit. If we were to approve the administrative appeal, there'd be no injury to policy, there'd be no injury to the zoning ordinance, there'd be no injury to the to our respect to the staff and their capabilities. It just is an exercise of our discretion as the quasi-judicial body that has jurisdiction over this question. And I don't think we should be afraid to exercise that discretion. I understand that I may be on the minority side of this, as I have been in the past, but I don't think there's anything to worry about if we were to approve the appeal. And it also would make things a lot easier going the rest of the way. So I'm in agreement with Ann Brockelman is trying to smooth the track forward if we can. Otherwise, we get into so many complications regarding timing, what's going to be conditions and what's not going to be conditions, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. Another hand go up?
I think Mr. Proya has his hand, and I can go after that.
Who is it? You can go. Oh,
The attorney?
Sorry,
Bill Brian?
I forgot to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
okay.
You have the floor.
Good.
I guess as an architect, my interpretation of whether they have moved forward with a dimensional variance, right, is are you showing the planning board your site plan? Does that take into account the dimensional variance that you've asked for, right? If the minute you start designing with that dimensional variance that you requested, even if it's not made it all the way, you haven't, the end of the road is submittal plans to the building department, but you're already starting to design with that. To me, that's exercising the variance. I mean, I can interpret that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, that is the plan we've been showing the planning department. The one-story building that was authorized by this hardship variance. And so that's what the site plan reflects, the special permit reflects, and then, you know, the operations of the building and any site plan approval conditions would be based on that dimension as well. Yes.
Thank you. My comment, I was one side before, now I'm trying to be active here and positive and getting things done. It comes back to us for the variance. As far as I am concerned, it would be approved, be the same thing. It's just time and then refiling, coming to us taking the time, he approving it or could disapprove it, but let's say we approve, go back again, so we've lost some time of getting something done. Confused with a little bit, and then I was thinking, well, why timely basis? What was the reason? That's why I said, you know, we said we don't sometimes we have to, was it, were we slow, were they slow, or the neighbor? What was going on? Was the weather? And I want to know. And it just seems like plodding along and just trying to get things done. And I think a lot of in the world are still COVID mode. Everything's taking a big deal to get the supplies or get people to do the work or business in. So I think in like saying about we had to put the loading zone. So no, I think I can vote tonight. I'm not happy, but I think I would vote in the affirmative. I don't think the city did everything they had to do, and we're doing. These guys too, the best they could do what they had to do, and I think we're just adding insult to if we vote to deny it. I just don't think it was. Everybody was slouching off the city plan anything, any of the departments. It's just taking longer to get for whatever reason. So I'm ready to vote tonight. I don't know if you guys are, if you want some more time, do you want to reread this? It was a lot of reading and understanding. If you want some more, we can go another meeting, whatever you want. Pleasure of the board. Ready? I'm here. Brian.
Sorry, let's vote.
Okay. Can we take a 5-minute break before we go to would that be okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, 5, just in 5. Thank you.
For the record, Emily Hutchings, it is 6:58, so we will be back at 7:03.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Mm,
Madam Chair, this is Emily Hutchings. It is 7:03, so
We're ready to go. Thank you. Everybody's back. I see. Yes, everybody's present and accounted for. So we're gonna continue. I think Mr. Cook and I said, the rest of the board, are you ready to take a vote this evening? Can I see a hand that, I'm not asking you how you're voting. Vote. I'm ready to vote. Ann Hutchins, you have something to say?
yes, Madam Chair, through you, Emily Hutchings, I just wanted to note that the public comment period is still open.
Thank you. Comment, 1 second. Thank you, Ms. Hutchins. I did forget. So, on the public portion, it is still open. Can I ask Andrew, if anybody's come up, could he do a final last call?
This is
Please,
Andrew
on the
Kaminsky
matter.
speaking. If you would like to
Okay.
speak and provide public testimony, please use the raise hand feature. Chair Fontano, I'm not seeing anyone who would like to speak.
Okay, thank you so much. So at this point, I'd like to close the public session regarding 620 Broadway. That is closed. Now we open it up to the board to, we're ready to vote and then to make our motion. Are we ready to vote?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
a procedural question or a rule question. I
Brian.
believe it's the case, but I could be wrong, that an administrative appeal requires 4 votes in the affirmative. Is that correct?
Yes.
A minimum 4.
Yes, Madam Chair, through you, an administrative appeal requires a supermajority of the board for approval, which is 4 in this case.
We would all be voting tonight, all 5. We have the 5. Is that our luxury, Emily?
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe what Mr. Cook was referring to is that for an administrative appeal to be approved,
Right,
that 4 out of 5 members would need to vote in the affirmative.
correct. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Cook? Anybody else have any more questions? Does the attorney have a closing comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I think the discussion's been thorough, and I hope I answered all your questions. And I am in support of the exercise for the practical reasons that board members mentioned, and because I do think it's the most consistent with the applicable case law as well.
Okay,
But either one will work. We'll make them work as best we can. But I would ask you to support the exercise vote. Thank you.
thank you. So we are gonna vote. I'm gonna, Brockelman,
Madam Chair, I think Emily Hutchings has another.
Hey.
um,
Emily's hands up, I see it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I would just like to remind the board to clearly state its reasoning, making any motion in the affirmative or the negative.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ann Brockelman.
on a timeline for the second vote.
What are you saying?
If we agree on the timeline,
Yeah, I don't think we have yet.
Madam Chair, this is Emily Hutchings again. May I make a suggestion?
Please.
Get through the first vote, and if the first vote does not pass, if the administrative appeal is not approved, then discuss a timeline for the second vote.
But if we vote in the affirmative,
Then the timeline is not necessary.
that's right. Okay. All right. So we're gonna make the motion to, I guess we said, is that what you said? And then we say yes or nay, right?
Madam Chair, yes, you're asking for a motion
Approve.
for whether to approve and with the reasoning attached to that motion.
Right, right. Okay. Motion will be, Ann, the motion's gonna be to approve with the reasoning for that we feel is a well, I said the time, everything has taken longer. Thought it was still like COVID time. They said that it was, they couldn't plan on where to put their loading zone. These are all is what I'm getting at. Anybody else have some comments for the thing? If we do approve it, these were the things that we felt, and those who with them, they'd vote nay. Ann Fullerton, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like the reasoning that you're giving of the timeline and the delays from internal sources inside the city are actually advocate for the second option, not the first option. The first option is the administrative appeal, and really the proof needs to be about whether or not they have exercised their dimensional requirements of their variance, or I'm sorry, rather their special permit. I see Emily wanting to say something.
Emily.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to note, Ms. Fullerton, that you were correct the first time that they've exercised the variance.
The affirmative is that they did exercise the variance. Right?
Yes. And the reason that we think that is because they've taken the actions that seem sufficient to exercise the rights to the hardship variance, which are a dimensional hardship variance.
So what are you saying, Ann Fullerton, that Ann Brockelman's gonna, that's what I'm looking for some input, and that's what I was thinking if we that they exercise the variance. My mindset, I had to figure out, do we have to make them come back or just go forward? So that's what I was thinking of, all the reasons why they're still here. Am I messed up?
Madam Chair, I don't think you're messed up. My point was it actually to clarify the reasoning, because I don't think that mentioning
Oh, okay.
like COVID polling or a department, a specific
Get it.
department slowing you down is the reasoning, but rather it needs to be linked to the dimensional requirements of their variance.
Madam Chair, through you, this is Emily Hutchings. I agree with members Cook and Fullerton. So the reasoning you were describing would be reasoning that would support the equitable tolling question. And the reasoning that member Cook described would be appropriate reasoning to support the exercise of the variance question.
Get it, Ann Brockelman.
okay, taking notes.
Yep, I see.
We ready?
We ready?
In the matter of 620 Broadway, ZBA case P and Z 23-055,
Yeah,
make a motion to approve the application for an administrative appeal, which would overturn the building official's interpretation that the variance has not been exercised. The board finds that the applicant has exercised the variance, which are for dimensional requirements of the special permit. We
Hardship
feel that
variance.
they have taken the actions to exercise a dimensional hardship variance. For example, in actively engaging the site plan review with the planning board. So they proceeded in good faith, even though it was short of actually getting a building permit application in. But we feel that they were moving in that direction.
Emily, is that language sound okay?
Madam Chair, through you, yes, I would just note that it's exercise of the variance rather than special permit, and that it's
Yeah.
site plan approval process rather than site plan review.
Thank you.
But all the components are there.
Thank you so much. Do we have a second, please?
Second,
Seconded by Brian Cook. Please say yay or nay. Brian Cook,
yay.
Ann Brockelman,
Yes,
Fullerton,
Yes.
Lucia Daglian,
Nay.
Susan Fontano, yay. Let the record in the affirmative, which is what they needed, and one negative. Now, how do we go forward now?
Madam Chair, through you, I believe that the fact that you have voted to determine that the hardship variance has been exercised
Exercise,
renders the request for a determination of equitable tolling moot. I'd ask the applicant if he would like to withdraw that request for a determination and then vote on that just to close all of the loops.
Madam Chair, may I respectfully request to withdraw our request for a determination of equitable tolling of the hardship variance in this case?
yes. The board, we can, now we vote on,
Madam Chair, through you, this is a simple vote to approve the applicant's request to withdraw or the request for a determination or to deny it.
right, so did the clerk have to make the motion for us to vote on it? Yes,
Yes.
okay, Ian,
I
could
make,
you please,
yes, I make a motion to approve the applicant's request to withdraw the determination on whether variance has or has not been equitably told.
Madam
Voting
Chair, through you, I just note it's a request to withdraw the request for a determination. It's a
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for backing us up on this tonight. We go. Brian Cook,
Muted.
Brian, you're muted.
Yes, we need a second, so I
Yes.
second.
Okay, yes. Ann Brockelman,
Yes,
Fullerton,
Yay.
Cecilia Daglian,
Yes.
yes. Susan Fontano, yes. Let the record show that members voted in affirmative. There you go.
Very good. I appreciate it. Thank you all. Thank you, Emily, as well.
Any other business here with the agent or anybody else? No?
Not for
Okay.
me. Good
The
evening.
tricky.
Thank you.
I thank Emily and everybody for being patient with everybody's help is all appreciated. Good luck. We want to get rest of the business tonight is leave on the agenda. So before we close up, does anybody have any comments they'd like to say or add? No? Okay. So and that we close the meeting. At
And make a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
seconded by Ann
Second,
Fullerton. Ursula Fontano, yes. Brian Cook,
Yes.
Cecilia Daglian,
Yes.
Ann Fullerton,
yes.
and yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good night. See you at our next meeting.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Hey, thank you
Bye,
so
Andrew.
much, Andrew.
Take care, everyone. See you
All
soon.
right, thank you,
Bye-bye.
Emily.
Bye-bye.
Congratulations, Emily.
Thank you.